with Shrek 5 now having been confirmed for July 1st of 2026, and Toy Story 5 releasing 11 days before it on June 19th, 2026. There's a lot to talk about. The main thing I'm seeing at the moment on the internet is people asking the question of, why is Toy Story 5 being brought down? Why are people not so happy about it? And Shrek 5 is being praised to be this huge movie event, this thing that everybody wants to go see. And what's the difference with it? Well, to summarise, Toy Story 3 and Shrek Forever After both released in 2010. Just not my microphone. They're both released in 2010. And both of them served as a conclusion to the respective franchises. Toy Story 3 ended on a emotional conclusion, whereas Shrek Forever After didn't. If anything, Shrek left it open for more movies, whereas Toy Story 3 seemed to close that door entirely. Because the thing about Shrek and Toy Story, and there are two different franchises, is Toy Story is all about growing up. At least Toy Story 3 is about, the premise of growing up and toys not being that engaging to adults. Whereas Shrek never had that effect. Shrek could have told another 20 films by now, and it wouldn't feel like it's run out. Because Shrek is about fairy tale beings. Of course, Shrek is the main protagonist, but that's what the film's about. The film is about your fairy tales. And everyone loves a good fairy tale. Even the worst Shrek films, which are, I'd say Shrek 4 is the weakest. Just because I love Shrek 3 the most. Shrek 2 is the best, but out of the 3 and 4, I prefer Shrek the third. Shrek 4 is very close though. But it lends itself to more stories because it's all about fairy tale beings. Where we've had villains from Lord Farquaad, Prince Charming, the Fairy Godmother, and the last one, of course, being Rumpelstiltskin. The film just lends itself to more adventures. We've had 2 Puss in Boots movies since Shrek Forever After released. So it's surprising it's taken this long. It's 14 years as of recording this since we've seen Shrek in cinema. 16 years by the time it comes out. Whereas Toy Story 3 closed the book. Then they reopened it, of course, for Toy Story 4 in 2019. And a lot of people, I'd say myself as well, I'll include myself in this. There were a lot of people that were worried that perhaps doing Toy Story 4 would ruin the movies that came before. However, that wasn't the case. It served as a second definitive ending. It served as his epilogue. Sean Chandler said that in his video, and I think, it summarises it quite well. It does serve as an epilogue. So, with Toy Story 5, what are they really doing? What's the new thing they're bringing to the franchise? They're not. Woody is gone. However, Woody's apparently going to be back for this new movie. Buzz is coming back as well. You're going to have the whole gang back. And it makes me feel that Toy Story 4 the ending that we got, the emotional ending, Pixar are going to go, right, we're going to forget that ending for a moment. And we're going to tell this other story. Part of me don't like that. Part of me would have preferred if they'd have gone, look, we're doing a Toy Story 5. It's set within the Toy Story universe, hence why it's called Toy Story 5. But it's a reboot. You still may have cameos from these, but it's a reboot. Woody returning takes away from that ending. And I don't think you could do a Toy Story movie without Woody and Buzz anyway. The other thing I want to bring up is the fact that Toy Story is done. You know, it's done completely. No one cares. And the reason I say this is because I look at Toy Story for its ending and then what they did with Lightyear, and how that was received. And I look at that film entirely as a whole, and I think that's where the fandom decided that it should be put to rest. Unlike Shrek, Puss in Boots and the Last Wish did really well commercially. Unlike Lightyear, it reignited the flame for the franchise, unlike Lightyear. And it was a fun movie, the same as Lightyear. I think because of the fact they also recast Buzz may have had something to do with it. But at the same time, I don't think that's an issue. Because at the end of the day, Buzz Lightyear is a very profitable character. He's a very profitable character. Puss in Boots has, of course, had 2 movies. And that's great. Although I have a lot of fear for Toy Story, I will still see this film. And another thing that I also want to say, I have fear for Shrek. Because it seems to me the director has cast the original actors. He's even said he wants to tap into that nostalgic feel. Which is what cinema is at the moment. It's nostalgic feel. We've got Bad Boys back. We've got Ghostbusters back. We've had Beverly Hills Cops back this year. Another Karate Kid film's coming soon. And it's all just massive nostalgic feels. However, Shrek 5 can do wrong. It can. There was a new model of Shrek that I'm bringing up. I'll put it on screen. That was revealed to the world at Universal Studios tour in Florida. If that is what they're going with, if that's the new animation style for Shrek they're going with, like they redid Puss in Boots, it's not going to have the nostalgic feel. It doesn't matter if the characters sound the same. If they're going for that look, in my own opinion, they should have just rebooted the franchise. Which is what I think DreamWorks wanted to do. Which I think is why Puss in Boots looked that way. They wanted to soft reboot it. Maybe get a new voice actors in. And I think Puss in Boots The Last Wish sort of does that soft reboot a little bit. Taps into the idea. The animation style for Puss in Boots The Last Wish isn't the end of the world. But I think if you're hitting a nostalgic feel for Shrek, it is. So, where does that leave me? Shrek 5 is going to be a hit. Toy Story 5 is going to be a hit. You can't deny that. They're all going to be hits. Because that's what they're made to do. However, and I will say this, Toy Story 5 does not deserve to be a $1 billion film. Even though it's going to be. It doesn't deserve it. And I think once people realise that, I think people have realised it, to be honest. But I think once people start admitting it, that it doesn't deserve to make the money that it's going to, that's when we're going to start to see a change in cinema. again, I want to put this point out there. I understand why Toy Story 5 was announced. I understand why they're doing it. It doesn't need to be done now, but they're not going to cancel it now. It's announced. It's in production. They've probably written the script, and they're probably getting ready to start voice acting. And, you know, actually, if DreamWorks were already doing the voice acting for Shrek 5, Toy Story 5 was in the middle of doing voice acting. That's what I figured. That's how I figure it. Because with them being so close in date and stuff. Pixar even, not DreamWorks, Pixar are not going to cancel Toy Story 5. And the reason it was put into production was because Pixar was having a very rough time trying to make movies that were critical successes and box office success. Of course, they've managed to do that this time round with Inside Out 2. And I'd say that's what swayed me on having this more negative point of view towards Toy Story 5. I already had a negative point of view on it, but one that's worse. Because their original reasoning for announcing it was very much because Pixar was in a state of, we are not making money. Our stories are not getting the attention they need. So they needed that little spark to reignite the flame, and they've got it. They also, of course, Disney also announced when Bob Iger returned, Frozen 3, Zootopia 2. These are films that, you know, deserve to have sequels. Because they didn't have definitive endings. There's another untitled Pixar film coming out in 2026. So we've actually got, I think we've got 3 Disney animations, which is Frozen 3, Toy Story 5, and an untitled Pixar film. And I wonder if that's Zootopia 2, and if not, maybe The Incredibles. I don't know. When we find out that, I'll, of course, talk about it. But something has to be said about them doing this new Toy Story film. They're doing it, I think, for all the wrong reasons. They're doing it for the cash. Which is disheartening. Because I think every project Pixar has done up until this point has been for the story. I can't see a story where this would work. Where this would actually pay off the last 2 films. The 2 conclusions. Lightning doesn't normally strike twice, but it did in Toy Story 4's case. I don't think it's going to strike a 3rd time. If you have enjoyed today's video, please consider hitting that like button, the subscribe button, commenting down below what you think of today's video, and where you stand on the whole Toy Story 5, Shrek 5, what you're more for and what you're more against. Do you agree with my reasonings for being annoyed with Toy Story 5 but so excited for Shrek 5? And, of course, as always, stay cinematic.